Welcome to the Poetry Bulls podcast with Tola. Yeah, it's me again. How you guys doing? You okay? You enjoying the sun? Wow, this past week I think the COVID numbers tripled in the UK. So, I don't know. I think the good thing about it is that the death rate seems rather low. I don't know what the numbers are, but last time I checked, they were pretty low. So maybe the vaccine is helping to suppress the strength of the COVID infection. I don't know, but stay safe, whatever you choose to do this weekend. Try not to. If you're getting into an Uber, try not to leak the seats. I don't think you should do that anyway, but with COVID in the air, it's probably a good idea not to attempt something new. Try not to shake hands with people you don't like. They're more likely to infect you because that's how COVID works. It's on Wikipedia. Check it out. It's there. I know. Um, the Euro 2020 started yesterday, which was news to me because I don't know what happened, but it just passed me by. Maybe they advertised it to some degree. I didn't see it. So I kind of, I was just looking for my phone on Friday morning, and the news came up like, oh, by the way, we're playing football today. It's a major competition starting today, you know. And I mean, I love football, so I mean, I didn't mind too much, but I do feel I feel kind of tired of the whole thing. You know, we've had we've just gone we've just finished the Champions League. That was a big deal. Chelsea won. Who did they beat? I mean, it just happened. Like I can remember Chelsea, Man City. That's it. That was a great game, but I mean, it was a great game, and that's probably why I feel we have another major competition already. I'm still gonna watch it. I'm just saying it seems like a lot in a short space of time. Uh, anyway, I saw the first match, Italy versus Turkey. Here's what annoyed me about that match. The the commentator, they had two commentators. One of them went, Italy looks so, energetic. They look so, they're really here to play and to entertain. And and he went, and Turkey, they look so. He didn't say they look so. He said they must be tired. And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean tired? It's 30 minutes into the first game of this competition. What do you mean tired? Tired? Tired of what? Being shitty? If they're tired of being shitty, then absolutely yes. Then they are probably tired of being shitty. But they're not tired. These are professionals. They do this regularly enough. They had a bit of a break. Probably not long enough, I would admit, but you don't use tired in a context like this. It's just I think it's lazy. You know, that tells me nothing. And more importantly, it's not true. The truth is they're just not very good. And they lost 3-0. I stopped watching at the 70th minute because it looked like a training match and they didn't really show up. And there's a lot I can say about why that happened, but I just want to move on. I it's like, yeah, Italy dominated the match. They won 3-0. I think come to your own conclusions. I don't want to talk about it. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about what am I talking about? Simplifying radicals. So, I originally wanted to go with the title square root because that's the genesis of this idea. But I thought simplifying radicals, it sounded cooler. So let me explain what I mean, right? So simplifying radicals is a technique used to find the square root of a number manually, right? And you do that by breaking numbers down to their prime numbers, in a sequence. So that sounds incredibly boring, but I don't think it is. If you're bored already, just turn this off. But I thought it was rather interesting, right? So, and don't ask me why I like that, because that's all that kind of stuff. So I was just thinking, right? If you have a number like 9, you go, oh, the square root of 9 is 3, and you go, oh, why is that? And you say, oh, because if you multiply 3 by itself, you get the number 9, so hence being the square root. Anyway, I tried to find a really good definition of square root online because it seemed like I was using a lot of words to explain something that seemed rather obvious. But it turns out that having searched the internet for a suitable definition of square root, that even the brightest people have struggled to come up with something that a layman such as I can comprehend, right? So here's what I found, right? So there's a definition that goes: a square root is a function that maps the set of non-negative real numbers onto itself. I don't know what any of those words mean, right? Right. So I found another one that goes: a square root of a number is a value that, when multiplied by itself, gives the number. It's a bit of a struggle. What number? What number, right? Here's another one: a number which produces a specified quantity when multiplied by itself. Again, it seems like we're using words like numbers, itself. It's I don't know what's going on there, but let me have a go because I have all the answers, right? So, having looked at this a bit just before I did the podcast, I recorded the podcast. A square root, I like to use illustrations, right? So let's take the number 9. The square root of 9 is 3. Why is that the case? Because if you multiply 3 by itself, which I hate that word, itself, but if you multiply 3 by itself, on itself, is it by or on? I don't know. But if you multiply 3 by 3, you get 9, right? So a simple definition would be: a square root of a number is a number that, when multiplied by itself, gives you the original number. Look, I said it was a struggle, and none of these guys did any better. None of these guys did any better. Look at this one. Look at this one. The one I read earlier, right? A function that maps the set of non-negative real numbers onto itself. I mean, that means nothing to anyone, right? So I think mine is a little better because at least I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm not trying to confuse people. But yeah, so I realized, and it's been a while since I've had this realization. It's easy to do the square root of simple numbers without a calculator. But without a calculator, you finally you realize, hey, like, how do you actually calculate the square root of a number that is not obvious, right? So you can go, the square root of 4 is 2, 9 is 3, 16 is 4, 25 is 5. And you can go maybe all the way up to 12, right? and you can go, oh, the square root of 144 is 12. And you've done that because you know the basic math that 12 multiplied by itself is 144. So that definition helps to some degree. That it's like, okay, you multiply a number by itself, it gives you the square of that number, right? So you can figure it that way. However, by the time you get to a number that I don't even think you need to get up to 144 before you realize that there is something that is missing in your knowledge bank, at least for me. And that was, how do you calculate the square root of a number without a calculator? So I came across a method called prime factorization. And that simply means a way of expressing a number as a product of its prime numbers. So that's what prime factorization is. And let me give an example of how that would work, right? So you have the number 108, which we can define as a radical number, simply because its square root is not a whole number. It's a whole number and a fraction, right? So that's a radical number. So 108, how would you break this down using prime factorization? So here it goes. Stick with me. Just stick it out. Come on, stick it out. So the lowest prime number would be 2. So here's what I understand, right? So if you want to break something down by its lowest prime number, you don't start with 1, because every number is divisible by 1. But if you're trying to break down 108 to simpler numbers, you can't do that with 1, because 108 divided by 1 is equal to 108. So you're not going to get anywhere, right? So the best number to start with is 2, because 2 is, well, 108 is divisible by 2. So let me get into it. So the next stage of 108 is 2 times 54, right? Then you break down 54 into smaller numbers, 2 times 27. Then you break 27 down into simpler numbers, 3 times 9. Then you break down 9 into simpler numbers, 3 times 3. The next stage is without being able to visualize it, you might struggle with what I'm about to say, but it's pretty basic, right? So we have 5 prime numbers. That's 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. So those 5 prime numbers were derived from the breakdown we just did. So the next stage of the process is to multiply 2 by 2, which is 4, and 3 by 3, which is 9. And you multiply those two numbers together, which gives you 36, and you break it down further to give you 6. Because the square root, of 36 is 6, right? So, and of course we have an extra 3 which we haven't factored in. So the square root of 108 is 6, and the square root of 3. Now, how do you get this into clear numbers without the square root element, right? So what I've found is that if you divide 3 by the lesser number, which is 2, or by another prime number which can divide into 3, which is 2, then it gives you 1 point something, and you multiply 6 by 1 point something, and it gives you the actual figure. Now, did any of that make sense to you? Look, I don't know if I'm being honest. It made sense to me, and that's the point, right? I'm going in my head like, who figured this stuff out? that's just bizarre. It's just absolutely bizarre to me because it's like, how do you figure that out? Are you so bored? Are you so gifted? You're definitely not normal. You're not a normal person to be able to go, wow, if you do prime factorization. I mean, I don't even who invented prime factorization. It's it's incredible. It's incredible, and I think this will probably lead on to my next point, which is the idea of simplifying radicals, right? So, like I always tend to do on this in this series, the Finding Inspiration series, I go, okay, so how does this apply to anything? I've never really used the concept of square roots in real life. I've never been in the grocery store and gone, oh, what's the square root of 50p? Bag of bag of sugar. I need to know what's the square root. You tend to do discounts most probably, right? So you go, what is the significance of square rooting anything, right? If it's not a radical number, then it's obviously easier, even using prime factorization, even if you don't know. So for me, like by the time you get beyond 12 times 12, I need to get a pen and a paper to do the math, right? Um, so I guess the square root of 169 is 13, something like that. But as you get higher up, I think like everyone else, you just go, I just don't know what it is. So prime factorization helps there, especially when you're dealing with numbers that don't have um, whole numbers as prime numbers, as square roots. This is painful. But can we apply the concept of square rooting or prime factorization to something other than numbers? I mean, let's give it a try, right? So, if you want to simplify a radical, first of all, you want to go, what's a radical, right? People, when you think of radical, I go, you know, terrorists of all shapes and colors and sizes. You have white supremacists, you have Arab, Muslim terrorists, Islamic terrorists, that sort of thing. You have people who terrorize people. I think of that's when I hear I think the news has done a good job of placing the word radical in that realm. Then you go, okay, but you don't have to be bad necessarily to be radical, right? So Elon Musk is a radical thinker. Like he's radical because he's extremely bright. So we also associate the word radical to extremism. So it's either you're extremely hateful, or in the case of white supremacists, or you're extremely bright, like Elon Musk. You're building spaceships and did I say spaceships? Space rockets. You know, driverless cars. You're doing a lot of cool stuff that mere mortals can only look at and share awe. Right. So we've defined the radical, right? So it's something extreme, an extreme thing, something that isn't normal, that doesn't conform to normalcy, in either a profoundly good way or in a profoundly bad way. Let's go with the bad. It's yeah, because that's what we know, right? I mean, the world is a shitty place, so we've adapted that word to mean something bad, right? So let's take a white supremacist. Why not? That's fun. I hate blacks. Yeah, okay, great. Um, so if you're to use, what is the square root of a white supremacist? Oh my god, I don't know. Um, a baby white supremacist. I don't know. I think it's easier to even take the larger number, right? I don't know what the two would be in this equation. I think the larger number will probably be personality. I think the things that shape people the most are the personality. Don't quote me on this. I'm just thinking out loud. Certainly, you have this inbuilt personality traits, right? Like you've inherited from your parents. Your environment, personality, environment. Um, let's leave that those two. I'm not an expert, right? So I'll say the larger number would be, so let's say white supremacy is 108 and personality is 54. Just use the example I gave before. 54 is personality. What would be the lesser number? What would be the two there? Gosh, why would a guy decide that he's better than everyone else? Um, let's say childhood upbringing. Right, so that contributes to personality, right? So okay. So I'm gonna try something, right? So let's say personality is what makes a person, and everything else is environmental. Everything kind of feeds into that. It's biological. It's whatever it is. It feeds into that person's personality to make them think that they are that their worldview is makes sense. So I would go personality times uh, the household they were brought up in, so their family home. Then I'll break it down to go personality times the schools they went to. Then I'll break it down to the personality times the friends they associated with. Personality times. So these are all. So let's say your friendship group is a prime number because that does shape you. Whether you're able to filter the good and the bad. That's entirely that's an individual thing. But um, I would say friendship groups are. I would say that's a prime number. I'll say your family definitely, your schooling. What else could be a prime number that can really define a person's personality? Um, I suppose the news that they consume. Who are their idols? Who are the people who they admire? Who are the people they admire? Who are the people they look to for help? What are the economic circumstances growing up? What are the economic circumstances when they're adults? Um, do you see what I mean? So I think you can break it down to many things. Like, why is this person such an asshole? And you go, why is okay? No, okay. So why is this person a radical? So if you can simplify that into many different things, you go, what are the most critical? Um, I don't want to go into that. I mean, it's just a nice exercise to indulge in. But yeah, I think that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, like I said, I've never had to use um a square root in a grocery store, on Amazon, buying stuff I don't need, on Uber Eats, buying food I shouldn't eat. You know, at the cinema watching movies that aren't very good, considering all yeah, considering. But you can actually use. So I think what helped me visualize the usefulness of this was, let's say an alien, a green, bald guy, comes onto our planet and goes, "Oh, what is the most valuable thing you can teach me?" and we say to them, oh, the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 108 is 10 point something. I don't know what the number is. And you say, that's all you're going to get from us. Go on your merry way. I think he should be able to kind of go, okay, how can I use this to figure out these people? Because that's probably not all there is to them. But if this is all the information I have to work with, I don't know whether the imagination would stretch to the point where you go, can I use this as a technique to deciphering their personalities? Why they are the way they are. I don't know. But here's what I do know. I'm going to write a poem on this. Like I always do. So if you're new to the podcast, Finding Inspiration, this particular series of podcasts, the reason why it's called Finding Inspiration is because I find something that inspires my thinking so that I can write a poem on it. And I post the poem on my website, poetryballs.com. I might also add the notes as well, maybe a few links so you can check out the definitions that I quoted, about square roots and prime factorization and simplifying radicals. Anyway, I hope that wasn't too boring, but yeah, check out the poem. I don't know how good it's gonna be. That's very subjective, but I'll leave that to you to decide. Yeah, and enjoy the Euros. I'll probably talk about it again next week, or whenever it is I record. But yes, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time.